Hello, this is not our online prayer thing. We'll be doing that shortly. But I just wanted to share something the Lord put in my heart. I went out earlier to do some errands, and it was a day of roadblocks. I mean, have you ever had a day like that to where you run into one roadblock right after another? And the very first one that I ran into, I sat there like 40 minutes. And I wondered, what had happened. Was it an accident? Your mind really jumps around wondering what's really the holdup. And as we eventually got released to go on by, I saw that somebody had put a trailer in to their little plot of land. And I saw a spiritual comparison there that sometimes as we are on this journey of faith, we can run into a roadblock. But that doesn't always mean that something bad is up there in front of us, that there has been an accident or some destruction awaits us. But just as that trailer represented new life and growth in some family's situation, sometimes when there's new life and growth in our life, the enemy will try to slow us down and try to discourage us and keep us from pressing forward. And so I thought, man, that's encouraging to know that just because there was a holdup didn't mean I had to be discouraged. Somebody was getting new growth. Maybe you're in a place right now where you're getting ready to hit new growth and some things are getting ready to be moved into your situation. And right now you can't see around the next curve and you can't see what's going on. You just know that you're at a standstill and you're waiting for things to change. Well, eventually things do change, and we got past that first roadblock. And so I went about 5 miles or 6 miles down the road, and there was a guy, and the lights were flashing, and an asphalt truck had turned over and had blocked both lanes of the highway. And so I couldn't go any further without sitting there waiting for another very, very long time. And so as I sat there, I realized that I had a choice to either get frustrated and aggravated or to reroute my destination. And so what I did is I turned around and I went up through a side road and come around and got around the obstacle to continue on my destination. And just like in our spiritual walk with God, sometimes we can run into something that looks like, man, we're just blocked again, and it looks accidental. But see, the enemy is a thief, and the Bible said in John 10 verse 10, the thief cometh not but for to steal, to kill, and to destroy. And you can either sit there and be discouraged, or you can end up rerouting and end up letting God lead you and guide you around the obstacle that comes. And I thought about that scripture in 2 Samuel chapter 5. David has not been a king for a very long time, and the enemy comes to try him, and he defeats them. And then they regroup and they come back again. And David could have just skipped praying and thought, well, I beat him the last time, I'll beat him this time, and not sought the Lord. But this time, whenever he sought the Lord said, thou shalt not go up, but thou shalt fetch a compass over against them, over near the mulberry trees, in other words. And you'll have to forgive my paraphrase there, butchering that. It's not verbatim, but he had to change his location. And whenever he got over near the mulberry trees, he heard a sound of the going in the tops of the mulberry trees, and he knew that it was time to bestir himself, and God brought him victory. And sometimes we just need to, instead of sitting there and fussing and getting upset, we need to let God lead us, and we need to reroute, and we need to go around that object. If you can't go over it, go around it. Get around it. Don't just allow yourself to sit there. Well, and then the third obstacle, or the third roadblock that we run into, a road check. And if you're like me, most folks, whenever they see those blue lights, they get a little nervous and they think, oh Lord, afraid they're going to have a light out, going to have a problem somewhere on their car. And there's a little bit of fear that comes into their life. But you know what? Those guys are out there looking for those unseen dangers before that they happen, to try to catch them, to keep everyone safe. And sometimes a roadblock in our spiritual life is to cause us to stop what we're doing, because if you're like me, sometimes you're running 100 miles an hour, you've got many irons in the fire, and you're doing so many things that maybe you fail to notice the warning that there's a problem in one area of your life or another. But thank God for the roadblocks that come sometimes to slow us down. And even though today was a trip that took 3 times as long as it should have, it really wasn't a bad trip, because it gave me an opportunity to pray. And so I thought, wow, there is that spiritual parallel, that spiritual lesson that we can learn even from something as unpleasant as a roadblock or having to sit and wait. And you know, people are very impatient. I mean, you can be in a fast food lane and people get mad and they'll honk their horn, and you know, many times those employees are doing the very best that they can. And you know, I'm sure we've all had our bad days where we've gotten discouraged and we've thought, man, this is tough. I don't like having to wait. I know that in my own life, you know, praying, sometimes you want people saved right now. You want them saved yesterday. You want people to really, you know, be affected by the prayers that you're praying right now. But sometimes when you run into those roadblocks, it's not always a bad thing. And just like the trailer represented, you know, new growth in somebody's life, or the accident was an opportunity to reroute, go around it, find a different way to get around that obstacle. And then the road check, the police check, was an opportunity to make sure that there was no unforeseen danger, you know, in our vehicle or in our situation. And so every time that there's a roadblock, doesn't mean you have to throw up your hands and, you know, be frustrated. I get so amazed that sometimes people will leave at the last minute to get to work or to get somewhere. And here you are, you're trying to go to church, or you're trying to go somewhere, and man, they're zooming in right on your bumper and they're waiting for that opportunity. And sometimes they take really, really bad chances, and they'll pass you in a blind curve or pass you in a place that's not really safe because they're late, or they're almost in the verge of being late. Well, if we end up going around those roadblocks that sometimes come in our spiritual life, then it can be dangerous to us to ignore what God's trying to say. We need to take heed and have an ear to hear what the Spirit is saying unto the church, and not just the church corporately, but to us as the church individually. And so I pray tonight that this has given you something to think about, and I just wanted to share it as the Lord put it in my heart earlier as we experienced those roadblocks today. And we will be coming back shortly, doing our prayer meeting here, but I just wanted to share this little devotion and hopefully encourage somebody today. God bless you.